Hey friends, I'm Daniel Nesbitt, and in this episode we're going to keep trucking away at creating a sans serif typeface. I was a little hesitant on recording a video this week. If you're watching as this is new, you'll obviously know that many of us are stuck indoors due to the coronavirus that is hitting everything, and I'm sure your inbox is just chock full of various emails regarding that, and I was debating on whether or not if I wanted to even add to that or not. I promise this video is not about that, but I figured to go ahead with this anyway because at some point we just want to perhaps just have a little bit of normalcy or things just not being crazy. So hopefully you're comfy, hopefully you're safe, and hopefully you enjoy this episode. In this episode, I figured I would kind of bounce back over and do maybe a few small, or lowercase letters, I should say. So for this one, I think we're just going to dive right in because I've been eyeballing this next one for a while. That's going to be the lowercase e here. And I'm going to use the O as my base glyph here, if you will. And I'm going to grab the crossbar from the Z. And we're going to use those two elements to make a lowercase e. So right off the bat, I'm just going to drag this in about where I think I want that. And what I've got to figure out then is how big I want to make the aperture on this. This may take a little bit of mucking around for me here. One of the things that I tend to struggle with a little bit in glyphs, and maybe you can relate if you're creating your own font, is sometimes the Pathfinder can be a bit of a pain for me. So we're going to see what I can do here. And hopefully I remember the best way to go about doing this. So actually, I'm going to move. Actually, I'm just going to move my crossbar out of the way there for a moment. We'll just take things one at a time here and see what I can figure out. So it looks like this is going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of manually get this together here. And now one thing that I'm deciding on already here is that I want approximately a 45-degree angle cut for this, where the bottom of that E is going to come up. And at some point I'm probably going to have this come over a little bit more. So we're just going to do that. And with apologies to those who know glyphs here a little bit better than me, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to mark off these points where I want this to, I promise I'll get this. There we go. So we'll do a little bit of connection here and a connection there. There we go. So it's a little bit messy, but we got there. So I've got kind of an aperture going here. And I don't mind this point up here where the top part of it goes, but you can definitely see the bottom needs some help here. And one of the things that I think we need to do is kind of move that out a little bit, just so it looks a little bit more balanced. And then the other thing that I want to do is I want to see what we would look like here with probably a 45-degree angle where this is going to stop. So let's throw a point there. Let's see where this takes us. So correct my path directions. Not too bad, but definitely needs some work too. So I'm going to kind of muck around with this a little bit. One thing that I'm kind of looking at here is this, it's got to look kind of the part, if you will. And one thing that I want to avoid here is making this look like like I just chopped an O up, even though that's exactly what you just watched me do. So what I'm going to try and do here is just make this look a little bit more convincing. Maybe kind of round that off a little bit more. Let's kind of mess around, and you can kind of see. So right now, this is looking a little bit, I guess, more straight on than it should be, and it might even be tapering a little bit too much too. So let me give it a little bit more weight in a way. We'll kind of have it come back a little, maybe like such. So, not bad. I mean, when I look down at the bottom of my screen here, it doesn't look super out of whack. And this may be one of those deals where I come back a little bit later, because really what I'm looking at here is just kind of how this kind of curves around. And I'm trying to strike a balance between how it curves around, and then knowing that I kind of have to extend this terminal a little bit as well. Otherwise it's going to look a little bit weird, and I might even need to give it a little bit more weight too. Maybe something like that. I think maybe that kind of helps it out a little bit. So there we go, not too terrible, but I think we've kind of got an E going there. So yeah, let's see how that works. So as always, I'm going to step in here and we're just going to adjust my side bearings. And that doesn't look too terrible. I mean, it definitely reads like an E. So without getting caught up too much into that, I think that's going to work for me. Since we do have this, one other character we can kind of jump in and do, I suppose, would be the C. So go in and give this a little bit of attention as well. Obviously, the C does not need a crossbar. Now, there's two ways I could go about this, and I'm going to try. This is the original way that I was thinking about doing it, and then I opted not to. But now I'm going to come back and we're going to try it anyway. So rather than using the E, which didn't look too bad, I'm kind of wondering if maybe the C is a better place to start. So I'm going to combine those two together and make sure that I'm not closing out of my thing here. And then, let's see here, reverse contours. So the thing is, I'm looking at this, if I do this, it's going to make that C look too narrow, I think. And I'm gonna see, no pun intended there. Maybe just bringing this out a little bit more will help. Let's see how that does. So we'll do that, and then I'm just going to remove these. And I'm going to bring that in 40 point, well, actually we're going to stick with 60 for now. Keep things simple here. You know, that might not be too bad. That might not be too bad at all. I think I'm still going to move this out just a tad to give it a little bit more width and just kind of a nod to what we did with the E here. Yeah, and then I think I'm also going to go in and as soon as I get this to cooperate, oops, there we go. I'm going to bring this point in just a tad. We're focusing on that weight there. And I'm just going to push a couple C's out there just to kind of help myself out a little bit. And then I think what we can do is just kind of move that over a tad more. Actually, this probably could even come back a little bit. We're going to try and get this so it looks like it smooths off just a little bit more. And try and make this top curve a little bit more even as well. And that's the tough part with doing this way is it can be a little bit demanding to try and get exactly what I want here, but I think I'm just focusing on the top right now. I don't think that's too bad. Kind of bump that in a little bit more. That inner curve might be giving me some headaches though. I'm going to actually bump curves back here a little bit. Yeah, I think something like that's going to work. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to kind of cheat here a little bit. And we're going to flip that upside down. And I think for now, I know this might be a little bit of a no-no, but I'm just going to copy what I did on top, and then we'll see where we land here with things. So now one thing I know is that this is going to make it look a little bit more lopsided, so I've got to come back in here and probably just make that bottom curve out just a little bit more. And so what you see here, I'm going to bump it up to the edge. It's not very much. I think I just did 5 points, but you can see the difference between this point hitting the vertical guideline here and this one not. And really all I'm doing is just kind of making that look all right. Actually, we're going to kind of bump that in a little bit. And yeah, that I think gives a nice flow there. Perfect. So already off the bat, couple letters there, and what else can we jump into? One thing I've been curious about, and maybe this will work, maybe it won't. This lowercase j, I want to see if I can get by with this. I had finished one of the last videos, and I thought this would be a great idea. And who knows, maybe it will be here, so. That might not be too bad. I do kind of like the consistency there in the letters and how that looks, and I think for now I'm probably going to leave that. That's pretty easy to do for the J. Moving on, we're just kind of bumming through a whole bunch of things here. The next one I'm going to go with is, since we're already doing the lowercase j there, I guess might as well jump in on the T here and see what we can come up with as well. So now for the lowercase t, I'm going to borrow this real quick as well from the Z. So what's going to make this one a little bit different is that I don't want to have such a short bottom to this one like I did with the J. I'm sorry, after being captive in my own house for a few days, I'm kind of losing my mind a little bit on terminology. I'm sure many people can relate. But what I want to do here, I'm going to extend that out a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of see One thing I've been debating about is if I wanted this to curve out a little bit more. I'm already kind of going along with this tighter curve here on the bottom of the eye, so I'm kind of thinking as I see this that maybe I just got to stick with it and go with this longer tail, which I could be okay with, and I don't mind actually that it does this. It does kind of give it a little bit of a unique look to it. The one thing though with the T that always bugs me, and I don't know if this is the right way to go about doing things, but I might actually just bring that up to the cap line instead. I think that helps balance it a little bit better. Maybe I would even bring this up a little bit more later on. I'm not even sure, but that just seems like it might be a better solution for me here. And I do like how it kind of plays the TH there. Although actually, now that I see that, I think I am still going to bring this up a little bit more. I am kind of breaking my conventions a little bit, but I think that's going to work a little bit better. And actually, may even bring that out a little bit more in each direction, just to give it a little bit more width there. And as I'm looking again down in the bottom part of my preview here, I'm liking how that's coming together. So I think we're going to run with that. And actually, as I'm looking again, you can probably imagine where a lot of this is going. But we're going to jump around to the F. This one should be a little bit easier, I think. Make sure we're on the baseline. And then for the F, I'm actually going to bring this all the way up to, well, it looks like I did anyway, but bring that up to the top there, bring this up to the, there we go, the ascender line. So not too bad. I'm just going to jump, I think I did 80 on both those, yes. So I think that'll work out pretty well. It does have a pretty consistent feel to it there. One thing I am debating though, I may bump that in a little bit more. And actually, as I'm looking at this, I may even do this with the T as well. It does seem to get away from those little bits, so yeah, already see I'm kind of looking here at the spacing. It does feel a little bit tight on the eye, actually. Did 80 and 60 for that. I'm going to bump that out a little bit more. I'm sure, too, what's throwing me off a little bit is just kind of this area in here. And I'm wondering if that might just look a little bit better. Now, again, I know I'm going to be going through and kerning this. So a lot of these things will be dealt with at a later time. But maybe something like that works a little bit better. These odd shapes where you kind of get some of these open spaces here can really mess with you a little bit. Like even when I'm looking at the word lift here, for example, the L and the I look a bit close together. Again, this is where things like kerning would come in and help me out a little bit. But we're going to go with this for now. I know I'm also loosely spacing a lot of this as well, which you may have noticed as I've gone through this. And it's probably something that I'll come back and just make sure that I'm tightening up a little bit as well as I'm going through and doing final side bearings and getting into kerning. So kind of jumping out of there for a moment, since we did kind of some of those round letters with like the C and the E and whatnot, I think we're just going to go ahead and take care of that on things like this as well with the capital C. What's nice for this is I'm probably going to get away with being able to do a similar shape here. So let's see here. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to size this up to about the same size. Now, I know when I do this, obviously it's going to, whoops, the stroke thingness is going to be a little bit more than what I was after, but that's okay. I'm just going to kind of inch up. That gets us where we want to be. Basically what I'm going to do is just kind of use this O to mimic what I need to do with the C here. Well, like I said before when we were originally doing the other one, the lowercase, is that I do have to keep this part in mind here because this is pushing out farther than the actual O itself is. So there's still going to need to be some tweaking here. That's okay. Well, what's great is you can see how quick that's, whoops, you can see how quick that's coming together. So not too bad, kind of a nice quick way to do that. So that was 10 points apart, and I was doing 1660 for that. So, whoops, we'll get my keyboard right here. We're going to do 60 on the round side. I'm going to do 50 on the open side. And again, not too bad. That seems to work pretty well for me, I think. All right. So unlike the lowercase where I can go to the E, in this case, we're actually going to jump over to the D. And this should hopefully work out pretty well, at least what I was envisioning in my mind. So the thing with D is that we're not going to have that overshoot, which does make things just a tad interesting, shall we say? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of my overshoot. And I think while I'm at it, I'm also going to get rid of these points as well. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to create some lines here, here, and here. So now I get my shape. I'll correct my path directions. And then all I'm going to do is go in and just line everybody up. Well, one thing I'm going to have to keep in mind with this is that I will need to go in and, like we've talked about in some of the other letters, I'm going to have to come in and adjust how that curve tapers off. But you can already see it's not too bad. Actually, I might, let's see here, what, our H was 760, all right. So, let's see, that's 749, that would be 750 wide, correct? Yep. So, not too bad. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these points and just kind of move them in a little bit to the left. And then take these curves and a little bit out to the right. And it just kind of nicely gets that curve to taper off a little bit more. It doesn't feel as jarring. The other thing I'm going to check is my widths here. Those look to be about right. And there we go. We've got capital D. One thing that I'm just kind of going back and forth on looking at here, maybe this is just something that needs to get fixed on the inside. It looked like there was a little bit more weight there. I think now the line, and it's just really all I was looking at was the curve here, kind of at about a 45-degree angle, and about here at a 45-degree angle. And to my eye, I think that looks a little bit better. I just kind of want to adjust how that tapers into the wider portion there, because we are squaring up the letter a little bit. So I think that's going to look a little bit better. Fantastic. Great stuff, making progress. So with the capital D, actually, we're not going to do the R. We're going to go with P first. So again, now for the P, I've got to figure out how far up I'm going to go here. And one thing I'm thinking with this is I don't know that I want it to go too high up. Maybe something like that. And then take this portion here and center it. Now, one thing I've got to work on is definitely going to be these curves here. Because as you can tell, this is going to start to look a little bit wide, so I'm going to have to push this back in a little bit. Probably going to even have to take these points and push them a tad more in as well. Then just work on kind of getting this all sorted out. One thing that I'm kind of keeping my eye on as well here is that my my points are lining up. For some reason, there we go. For some reason, it just doesn't seem like I'm getting the curve. So one thing I'm going to do here is we're actually going to load up SpeedPunk here just to kind of help me out a little bit. This is a super valuable tool. It helps you kind of figure out where things are going with your curves to make them a little bit more uniform. And I have to be honest, this has been an extremely valuable tool for me. It just kind of gives you that visual if you're doing things right or not. And you can get some really nice curves from this. So if you haven't installed this yet, I definitely recommend it. You can kind of get things to taper off a little bit nicer and I think look a little bit better. Not too bad. So then it's just a matter of figuring out this inner curve. I think that might be okay. It does seem to be a little, I don't know, there's still something about it, but I think for now that'll work. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn SpeedPunk off for the time being. And since we're here, might as well just go and get the art done as well, right? Go through and grab these 2 points, push that down. Now with the R, I've got some choices here because I can either angle this, or I can have it curve down. And only because I mentioned it, move that out of the way for a moment, I'm kind of curious to see how this might look. So I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to push this around and see what happens here. This could be one of those things where I end up not liking it. If you're not a stranger to this channel, you usually know how these things kind of go. I think that's going to look a little bit tough, if I'm honest. I don't think I've got the real estate for it. So we're going to go with the angled leg here. And as far as an angle goes, if I jump back over here, I really don't have angles established too much. I guess I do have it in the M here. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to steal that, and we're going to kind of use this as our guideline, because I really don't have much else in the way of angles right now. So let's see where our M takes us here. And another thing too, and I'm actually glad I did this because there may be some tapering involved as well. Let's get these points close. Let's just, actually here, let's just make this all the same weight. And let's just see where this takes us. Could be a good place to start. So, push that to the side for a moment. Honestly, not too bad. It definitely needs to come out more. But that might be our angle. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of my extra piece there. I don't mind at all how that looks, if I'm honest. It does have a little bit of a nice vibe to it. Still going to push it out a tad more, just to kind of help it look like it's not going to fall over. But not bad. Actually, the more I look at it, the more I get excited about this. I think this is looking pretty well. Of course, the part that I'm going to go back and forth on here now is how much do I let that kick out, but there we go. And honestly, even when I look down here at the lower, or the smaller preview here, it doesn't look too bad. It seems to read pretty well. I may need to do some work with weight on that, but honestly, not too bad. So making some more progress here. And what's kind of exciting about this is this does seem to be going, at least in my opinion, a little bit quicker now. And as we go here, I think things will start clicking into place now that we're making a few more decisions, particularly about how different shapes and whatnot work. I'm really excited when I start introducing curves into typefaces, because there's just so much you can do to set it apart. Even if you're doing a sans serif like this, everyone seems to think about geometric sans serifs, making something that looks like Century or Avenir, Avant-Garde, even into things like Helvetica. And yeah, you can definitely make typefaces that look like that, but one of the fun things about this is you don't really have to stick to those things, and just being able to play with a few small variables. It's interesting how much it can totally change the look and the feel of a typeface, and I really think that's where we're going here with this one. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully, if you're stuck at home, this helped make the time pass a little bit quicker. As always, I appreciate any comments that you have on this video. If you see anything that I'm overlooking or should pay attention to, or any tips or tricks, anybody who's watching this video, including myself, we all like hearing from that, learning from each other. That's the goal here. And as always, just to kind of help the channel keep growing as well, make sure that you're adding a like and subscribe on there to catch when my new videos come out every Friday. If you also want a little bit of an extra heads up, you can visit my website at nis.bet and sign up for my newsletter, which I also send out every Friday just to notify of the new video. And on top of that, if you're a new subscriber, you'll even get a free demo copy of my font, Harvest Stout. So definitely worth checking out. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next episode.